not let me down, operator.
Enemy located!
Artillery barrage incoming.
Enemy off balance!
What's up YouTube, welcome back to the channel. So today's video we're going to be talking about how to build guns in Delta Force, specifically for the warfare mode, okay? And this video is going to be talking about a methodology that I use when I go to build guns in the game. That way you feel like you have the confidence to build the guns yourselves. Although sharing codes and using streamers codes is really cool and it's like one of the best features of the game, it's still important to know how to like build guns that support your playstyle, because although one build may work for someone else, it may not work for you. It doesn't really transition. You know, builds are kind of dependent on your skill set and then also a few other things. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a system that I use to build guns for myself. And then that way you can go ahead and use the same approach and system, but use it for your skill set. And that way the build will support your playstyle instead of sometimes conflicting with your playstyle. All right. So without wasting any more time, let's just jump right in the video and get talking about guns in this game. So for guns in Delta Force, how I approach building weapons. Step one is defining your playstyle and then building a gun that supports that playstyle. So that's the first thing I do, first things first, right? As you can see right here, attack and defend. So that's like the main mode for warfare at the moment. And I'd say 3 playstyles fit in within that mode. The first one is gonna be super hyper aggressive, like a rush type of class. High rate of fire, high mobility SMG, players with really good movement. They know how to utilize their operator to do crazy plays. They're going for as many frags as possible, very aggressive, challenge, jump peeking corners, hip fire. And then the second play style, which is what most people I feel like fall under just by observing the matches I've been in, and it's like the rifler. So you're kind of the mid-range rifler. You're able to play a head glitch, laser people at like 30 to 45 meter range. You support your team. You're kind of in the heat of the battle. That's like a majority of how people play. So we have a rush class, a rifler, and then the third play style or class I would call more of like a specialist. And that's someone that plays a little bit more slow, usually in the back of the pack. Maybe they're overseeing the battlefield. They're able to understand how the team's coming in and our team's defending. They see the front line. They're watching flank routes and a couple lines of sight. So that's kind of like how a slower playstyle a person plays. And that's what I would categorize the third playstyle as. So none of those playstyles are right or wrong. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. The point that I'm trying to make is you want to be able to identify which of those 3 you fall into, because that is going to be a huge reason to build your gun a certain way. For example, if you feel like you fall in the third category, the slower paced tactical kind of player, you don't really need to prioritize handling on your gun as much as you would if you were the first type of player, hyper aggressive, right? Because if I'm sitting back just kind of holding an angle, maybe it's a hallway or a flank route, boom boom boom, I can pick a dude off, reload, don't see anyone else coming, you know, I go check another lane 20 meters over, come back. You know, that more slower play style, you're not sprinting around and you don't need sprint to fire time, you don't need a super fast handling. Now, I'm not saying go build a gun with like 700 millisecond ADS time, but you see what I'm saying. Like, handling isn't as important for that playstyle as it would be the first or second type of playstyle. Whereas for the first playstyle, super fast-paced, aggressive, maybe range and recoil management isn't as important because I utilize hip fire or I'm only 10 meters away from my enemy. So if the spray pattern is a little crazy, that's fine. So that's the point I'm making. You need to identify what your playstyle is. That way your build is optimized for your playstyle, which is really important, okay? So that's step number 1. Okay guys, so now that we have step 1 completed, we have our goal. We want to build a mid-range rifler, okay? So that's going to be our goal. And when we make our decisions regarding choosing the gun and choosing the attachments, that's what we're going to refer back to every time we go to make a choice. What is our goal? And you always want to make your choices align with that goal. It's going to be a very efficient process and efficient build, okay? So to start off, as we can see, here are all of the rifles available to us, and they're all naked, as in no attachments on any of them. And why I want to do this is because I want to look at the default values of the gun before I pick it, okay? So this is a pretty important step. You don't have to be this serious all the time when picking a gun, right? Like you can just choose one and try it out, and that's kind of the fun of the game. But the whole point of this video is to give you guys like my methodology for picking guns. So if it seems like this is way too serious, it's not. Like you could pick any gun and just go and try it and have fun. But I'm telling you guys how I think about this, all right? So this is like the thought process you should have for building guns. But regardless, the reason why I'm looking at the naked guns is because that's the base value for the weapons. So for example, if I look at the Car 15, 30 meter range, 25 damage per bullet up to 30 meters, and then every other stat's above 50. That's pretty good. Downside is it's a 20 mag and the rate of fire is on the slower end. So close range, you know, although we're picking a mid-range rifler, we're still going to get into close range engagements because of those aggressive players that push. And close range, a car with 632, you know, you could still win some of those fights, but if it's a really good player with a close range build, they're going to melt you. So that's one thing to consider. There's a lot of good options though, like the M4. The M4 is amazing. It's like everyone knows the M4. It's a great gun in like every game that it's in. As we can see, it hits a little bit less, 30 meter range, and then the control's a little less, and then every other stat's pretty good. 800 rate of fire, which is pretty high. For me, the two most important stats for mid-range control handling by far. Those are going to be the most important stats when you're picking this gun. When we look at the SG, that's pretty good also. Hits for 19. The controls pretty good. The stability and accuracy is really good, and the handling's really good. The reason why the handling's so good though, if you take a look, it's only a 20 mag, so that's kind of why the handling's at 61 off rip. The QBZ, this thing's pretty crazy because if we take a look, it does 22 damage at 40 meters, and then every other stat's above 50, and it has a 679 rate of fire, so it's not super fast, it's not super slow. It also has a 30 mag, so that's pretty good. Another one of my favorite guns in the game for the rifler, AK-12. This thing's super nasty, and right now I think the options that I want, it's either going to be the QBZ or the AK-12. So now that I have these two kind of as my candidates, I'm going to start comparing just these two. This one hits for 22 damage up to 40 meters with a 679 rate of fire, whereas this one does 21 damage up to 30 meters with a 735. So rate of fire is definitely faster. It hits less and 10 meters less. So that means it's tough. 555 muzzle velocity as well as 555 muzzle velocity. We got a 30 mag and a 30 mag. And when we look here from control to accuracy, 52, 55, 58, 54. 48, 57, 56, 54. So it's tough. I really love the AK-12. I have a nasty AK-12 build. I'll make another video on that, but for today, I think I want to pick the QBZ, okay? So let's go ahead and equip that bad boy. Now that we have the gun selected, that aligns with our goal, right? So our goal was step 1, our gun was step 2. Now, step 3, it's time to actually build the gun, okay? So let's get into building the gun. Here it is. Look at this bad boy. QBZ 6. So how I usually start with building guns in this game is picking the most impactful attachment first. The most impactful attachment in Delta Force and in most games where you build guns is going to be the barrel. It really can change the entire dynamic of the system of the weapon, okay? So as we can see, we have 3 barrels, okay? And my QBZ, just to let you guys know, it's level max. So if you guys don't have a max level QBZ, it's going to be different, obviously, but as you unlock attachments, you'll unlock these. So to start off, looks like we have a short barrel. Now the short barrel actually doesn't hurt range, which is kind of counterintuitive because most short barrels in like Warzone, for example, will totally wreck your range. But all this does is really improve everything except for stability. And when we go and look at what it does to stability, the biggest nerf is, you know, it's actually all pretty even, but we want to try to not have any of this. For me, the current hit flitch multiplier is the most important stat in stability. Everyone's going to have a different opinion on this, but this is basically the bullet punch you take. So when you guys are, when you're in a fight with someone and trading shots and the enemy's bullets hit you and you're spraying, you're already managing the spray of your gun, but each time you get hit by a bullet, it's going to add an additional recoil bounce. And this is a coefficient right here. So you want this to be ideally 0. But overall, this is actually a really good option because our gun already has a 40-meter range. As you can see, if we put on the tactical barrel, it bumps it up to 2 to 3 with no nerfs, which is actually really good. And we get 2 patch options, which is pretty good. And then as we can see right here, this is going to be the longbow barrel, and it's going to put us at 46 meters, 59 control, and 62 stability. It's going to hurt our accuracy, so hip fire, and it's going to hurt our handling. Let's see what it does to our handling. 361. Yikes, that's pretty bad. That's horrendous actually for a mid-range gun. So that's kind of often the case. If I was going for the long range, like Playstyle 3 that I was talking about earlier, this would be a good option. But if I use this, then I would have to use a few attachments to try to get my handling back up, like the rear grip, the underbarrel, and the stock, you know. And I don't think this gun has actually any stock options. It's just the pad. So by using this barrel, we really kind of sacrifice the point of the build, which is a mid-range. Although I know it's hard to not pick a gun that has a 46-meter range and buffs control. I think what we're going to do for the sake of efficiency, since this is a mid-range build, is go for this one because there's no downsides to it, and it buffs our range and control still by 2 and 3. So that's why I'm going to pick this one, okay? All right, so next up, usually I would go barrel and then I would go to stock. But as you can see, there isn't even a stock option on this gun. The cheek pad, of course, let's go ahead and take a look here. Control, so 9.6, 9.6, and 9.9. Nice, really helps our ADS, which is good, and then it also helps our stability, which is good. And it looks like there's no red, so there's no nerfs. The handguard kit, some guns have a handguard kit which kind of changes the frame of the weapon, so let's go ahead and take a look. This one is really good, and it messes up only our accuracy, so it takes our hip fire kind of crazy, but overall, we're definitely running this. I mean, it improves everything else. Sometimes you kind of have to sacrifice accuracy, and for a mid-range accuracy that's something I'm willing to compromise. So we're gonna go ahead and throw that on there. So like I said earlier, the thought process is I like to go to the most impactful stuff to the least impactful. Okay, so now that our gun is here, as you can see, we've improved it quite a bit, except for the accuracy took a hit. Now I want to go to muzzle, okay? So muzzle, you have 2 options. Are we going loud or are we going silent? Now, the thought process behind that is going silent, you can stay stealth, obviously, you stay off the minimap. Going loud, you'll get better control, but then you'll pop up on the minimap when you shoot. So some people like to pop up on the minimap, and if you're an aggressive player and you want to get more kills, I would recommend not running a silencer, because if you pull up on people's minimaps when you shoot, more people are going to try to push you and challenge you, and it's going to lead to more kills and more fights for you. So if you're trying to get as many kills as possible, run a comp. If you're not, if you want to stay low key and be able to run flanks and, you know, have the element of surprise where no one can see where you're at, and run a silencer. I personally like the whisper. So as you can see, it helps our range and control by 5, but it also nerfs our handling and stability a bit. When we go take a look, it takes our handling back to the 3 range, and stability, kind of hurts quite a bit. So sometimes that's a tricky one. And then as we see, if we look at the M7, it does 8 control, -6 range. When we go and actually look, the control's decent, 8.3, 8.4, and 9.4. And then the handling back into the 3s. Sometimes I even just run the practical suppressor, which just takes your visibility off the minimap, but it doesn't actually affect your gun at all. It's kind of a wasted slot because it doesn't do anything, but it just takes you off the minimap. So I would usually, if I'm running a silencer, I would either run practical or the whisper. Okay, that's an option for there. I think for this build, since we're gonna go mid-range, I think we're gonna go the Bastion's really good because it's horizontal recoil, so 0.76, but it doesn't do anything to our vertical and our stability. And the titanium comp is really good, or sorry, titanium muzzle brake, the contest, very good, because look, it does 8.2, 8.2, 9.4, and then puts our handling just above 3. So I think we're gonna go with the titanium on this bad boy. You know, since we're only gonna use the 30 mag, might as well throw the 30 mag on there. Let's see what this does to handling. Really helps our ADS, sprint to fire, there, and movement down iron sights. So that's huge. We're gonna go ahead and throw a mag assist clip on there. Definitely gonna go, ooh, the black looks clean, but I like OD green, so we're gonna go ahead and use that. So we really have rear grip, underbarrel, and optics next. Okay, so for optics, there's a lot of options. For the mid-range, I would just recommend a red dot, and that's gonna be up to you. Sometimes people even like hollows. I don't like hollows on guns that are super precise. If the gun has a crazy pattern, I'll use a hollow, but on this, I think we're gonna go with the panoramic, okay? And now as you see though, the iron sight is gonna be conflicting with the optic, but you could also just run a riser. Now when we look at the risers, let's see here, boom, 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 -1 control, +1 handling, and the controls for stability, so that's fine. We'll go ahead and throw the riser on there, and then I like the panoramic red dot. That one's my favorite. And then we'll go ahead and put the red laser. I like to match the laser to the color of the dot, and then I just like my laser on the right side. So that's what we'll do for that. We'll go ahead. I have a feeling we're just gonna use these for handling, so we'll go ahead and use those two for handling on the patches. So now all that we really have left is our underbarrel grip and our rear grip. So when we look at our rear grips, the Phantom is really nasty, okay, because it does control buff and a handling buff. But the problem is it puts our hit flinch multiplier up, as well as our sway range, and it worsens our recoil reduction while holding breath. So this is kind of not that good. I mean, I love this Phantom rear grip. It's up to you guys. That would be a good option, but mid-range stability is really important. And when we look at our stability here, this is pretty nasty. So the hit flinch multiplier is at 0.4, and then the recoil reduction when holding breath 0.7. So I think we're going to use the marksman. If you're wanting to use a rear grip that increases your stability, the marksman does the most. So we're going to go ahead and use the marksman there. And now the last option is going to be the underbarrel. So this is going to come down to a few things, and I'm going to focus the underbarrel on recoil management. And when we look at our recoil pattern, horizontal, it's not that bad. Obviously, this recoil pattern goes up for the first 5 or 6 shots, and then it goes off to the right. So that means you're going to pull down for the first 5 or 6 shots, and then pull down into the left for the rest of the spray. One continuous line. You don't need to adjust it at all to counter the recoil. So not too bad. For me, I want to focus vertical recoil here. So the RKO is pretty good for vertical recoil. It does a +6. The angled combat is good for vertical, but it also makes our handling and stability worse. Gets it to 0.8, and then our handling goes nearly to 300, and stability, nah. And this is where you can test some things out. Like this folding grip's actually really good. I've been using it on some guns because it does a handling buff, and then it also impacts, like, look at that, a 0.5 recoil reduction when holding breath, and then the hit flinch multiplier is 0.3, so that's pretty crazy. Let's go ahead. I haven't played this game at all today, so my aim might not be on point, but so this thing's pretty nasty. It feels pretty good. Like the velocity, bullet velocity feels good. I think it's only at like 600 too. Yeah, this thing's pretty deadly. So that feels pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, this thing's really good. I want to run a game with it right now, actually. When we look at the stats though, 0.68, 0.67, 0.9. So these are the 3 most important ones for control. Handling, 263. For a mid-range, it's kind of slow. Ideally mid-range, like 250, 240 and less would be really good. 260 isn't bad, but it's definitely on getting to like the slower end of ADS times. And then our stability's cracked. Stability's at 71, really good stability. Accuracy kind of meh. Let's actually take a look at our accuracy in the range real quick. So that hipfire is not too bad. If I had to get into a hipfire, actually, I'd probably lose to a really good player close range, but as you can see, it's pretty good. Hits for 22 at 42 meters, 69 control, 64 handling, 71 stability. So, of course, if you guys like to calibrate your guns, go ahead and calibrate it. I actually never calibrate on any of my builds because it's still like, it's a balance. Everything's a balancing act. And like, I just spent all of that time designing the balance through these attachments, I don't want to balance it even more individually. You know what I mean? It just gets too convoluted. That's just me. I'm pretty sure everyone else, I'm like one of the few people I feel like that doesn't calibrate guns, but I just like to leave it default. And when I pick the attachments, that's where I do the balancing. This is going to be the final build. I'll have it down in the description for you guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions and if you want to see more types of videos like this or me going over builds for certain guns. I love doing this type of stuff. But thanks for watching and have a good one.